Welcome to Take the Lead Radio with Dr. Diane Hamilton, where she interviews some of the most successful leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, and other individuals who will inspire you to take the lead in your career and personal life. And now, here is Dr. Diane Hamilton.
I am here with Dr. Ronald Beach. He's a speaker, trainer, professor, and proud United States Marine Corps vet. He is the program chair of the Bachelor of Business Administration at the Forbes School of Business and Technology. He is the founder of the Organizational Leadership Foundations, an online education consulting firm that works with universities and organizations to develop online training programs. And he is the author of The Virtual Divide. How are you, Ron? Welcome.
I'm excellent. Great to see you.
It is great to see you, my former boss. Yes. And, you know, I worked with you in a virtual environment. That's why I was so excited for your book. And congratulations, by the way. I've been seeing it all over LinkedIn, and it's doing well, I hear.
Oh, it's been very well received. I'm really, really happy about it.
Well, you know, I can't think of anybody better to write a book about virtual leadership than you. I mean, you are the king of it. And I mentioned before, you're the one who hired me at the Forbes School of Business. You were the one who interviewed me. And I remember you were just the best at keeping communication going. You were the only one that's up at the same time I was working, I think. I can remember a little ding on my computer, you know, because you knew I'd be working at a certain time. And you always kept communication open and made sure not to check on people. You never felt like you were checking on people, but just to that I knew you were there. And I think in the virtual setting, that's so important. And I think a lot of people want to know, why are you a virtual leadership expert? What's your background? I gave a little bit about you, but how did you get to this point that you're the head of a program at the Forbes School of Business? I mean, this is big deal stuff that you do. How'd you get here?
Actually, like a lot of people in 2008, I was in manufacturing operations for 25 years, managing factories, and my factory went offshore. And so I had to reinvent myself, and I was just finishing my PhD. And so I'm going, you know, what can I do? And I went some webinars, and I learned a couple of things. And, you know, everybody told me, run your name on Google. That's what they're going to do when they look. Well, I did that. And what I found, there's only one Ronald Beach at that time that popped up. It was a pedophile in Indiana.
Oh, no.
So I knew I had some work to do.
Yeah.
But it took time to kind of reinvent myself and going through. But what I found was I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, and I'm a kid that was raised in the bar business, and you know, my parents never went to, you know, high school or anything else. And so this was a whole new world for me. And so it took 3 years to reinvent myself. And I figured, you know, using my basic leadership skills I learned in the Marines, then what I've learned in manufacturing operations. I worked for Hitachi and Western Digital, some of the best, I think some of the best managers and executives in the industry. And I've been so blessed. But when I got into online leadership, I found I had trouble, you know, because I'm a very person. I like a lot of personal contact. And so in the factory, I'd start at one end of the factory and say hello. I have 500 people. I say good morning to everybody. And sometimes you can't make it all the way through because of meetings. So the next day I start at the other end. In a virtual world, it's lonely out there.
Yeah.
And so then I had to kind of reinvent, how can I use what I enjoy doing, but online. I ended up getting a job through LinkedIn, with Ashford University, because I've been teaching as an adjunct for many schools going through. I got my master's and PhD online, so I felt comfortable in that aspect. But when I really started getting into it, I started, how can I take my skills, what I enjoy doing, and how to put that into online environment. And I just found out it was something I really enjoy doing.
Well, you're very good at it. And I think that a lot of people don't know how to deal with virtual leadership. First of all, does virtual leadership mean that everything's done virtually? Can there be a hybrid? And, how is leading a virtual team different from leading a traditional team? Let's just start with all of that.
There's a lot of, some of the basic issues that we go through. In a normal corporation, things kind of change over the years. You have the standard managers and you have leaders. Managers are what we teach in universities, the MBAs, goals, objectives, targets. But we don't train the leaders of how to achieve those goals by working with your people. So that's a place that kind of holds out. And so most corporations, you have both people. You have the planner and you have the implementer. In a virtual environment, you have to be able to do both. And that's a challenge. But at the same time, how do you convey? You don't get to meet people at the water cooler. You don't get to see them, walk by their office and just say hi. So how do you use technology? How do you stay up to date with what's going on? And it's just, how do you convince them you care? You have to have that relationship you build. And for many managers, that's an uncomfortable zone.
Yeah.
We kind of shield ourselves because sometimes we have to make those hard decisions. Mm-hmm. And you don't want that personal connection. But in a virtual environment, you have to be able to have that.
I think it is really important what you said, that you have to have this virtual connection in a way that you can reach people in a way they're not used to being reached. And I think we have more students now who are taking online courses, so they're more used to the virtual thing than in the past. But like you and I have been teaching virtually for so long that we're very familiar with it, but a lot of people aren't. And I think that a lot of them put a lot of value on face-to-face communication. And I know, at least when you and I worked together, one of my leaders there, we had meetings. He was great every Wednesday. I wasn't crazy about having to get hair and makeup done every Wednesday, but I was like, oh, this was kind of cool because I got to see my colleagues and everybody. We did it through Skype or whatever was the popular thing. Do you think it's important to incorporate some of that in team meetings, or can you just can you have the conference call in real life? I don't know if you've seen that on YouTube, but the guy Trip Crosby was on my show, and it's a great YouTube video. Yeah, right. That's kind of what happens sometimes. How do you avoid all the dog barking, the muting, the dropping offline, all the things? Is it better to do an audio, a video meeting, or a combination? I'm just curious what you think about that.
Actually, I bring that. You actually do both. Because like what I do every Monday, I have one-on-one time. I just call and we just talk on the phone. Mm-hmm. What we don't do is we don't talk about work. I strive very hard to use that as just our time, just connecting and that you're building that relationship. That's where the foundation of trust comes in, that relationship. And in a virtual world, trust is something that is earned. You can't mandate it.
Yeah.
And so, but some managers try to think that's the way to go. And you get in your micromanagers and those type of things. And it's just, I think it's just the wrong path to go down. But at the same time, that's the one-on-one. But I have people that they like to use the video. And so we'll talk, because I have people all around the country, and we'll do our discussion just like this. I have students who'll do the same thing. They have the baby on the bed and hold it, and it's that connection they need. But at the same time, you have the team meeting. I like to have a team meeting where it's structured, it's short. But actually, like with Zoom, I let everybody go in early because we do this verbal, hey, how's this going? What are you doing? It's that connection between the team, not just work. And I think that is so critical. And for a virtual team, one of the things you have to have that FaceTime.
Yeah.
And I really think you need to get the team together at some point, just so they can actually see the person in person at somewhere along the road that built it.
Yeah, I agree. I know we used to do a once a year thing where we'd get together in person, and even if it's virtually video, I think it makes a difference to see people once in a while get that connection and kind of have a face with the voice, with the name, with the, the whole thing. And I think that I think that probably the biggest issue that I think people are worried about in the virtual realm is, will people actually be working? Do I need to constantly check on them? Are they going to be self-starters? We all have worked with people who virtual atmospheres will make them work 12-hour days instead of 8 because they can't leave their office. But we've also worked with the people who, well, I got to pick up the kids. I didn't get home. I didn't, and then they just never get back to it. So how do you know, should we check on people more? Do you trust people to work, and are they working?
Yeah, it actually goes kind of what's the role in the virtual leader is, you're fostering teamwork, you're thinking globally, how to kind of get that accountability. And you start that with the hiring process, all the way through the meetings and activities, the monthly reportings. I don't think you have to be a micromanager, but we have a responsibility of, you take care of your people by taking care of the company. You take care of the company by taking care of your people. And so you have to have results. You have to have accomplishments. Now, does it have to be in the same 8 hours in a day? No. We want to know, does it get done?
Right.
So you go to the store, so you go through it. That's one of the advantages of virtual environment. That's why people work with, look at our unemployment rate. I did a search just this morning. There's over 9,000 openings for virtual supervisors.
Wow.
Right. And we're not talking about, the stuffing envelopes type things. We're talking Fortune 500 companies, because there's an advantage, more working adults and single parents. There's an advantage. But if you get into too much of this micromanaging, then it can actually become more of a stress activity instead of something you get it done. You need the accountability. You need to get it done. Mm-hmm. But do I really? Now, this is all a personal thing with different managers.
Right.
Because I really don't need to know what you're doing for the full 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
I need to know, are you getting the job done? Do you need my assistance? I'm a barrier buster. Do you need resources? Mm-hmm. What's your goals? Am I helping you get to your goals? Because while I'm helping you, you're motivated to help the company. And so, but that's a personal goal. Some people like the micromanaging, do a time card virtual, I want to know what you're doing, everything. And I think that's just not my personal style.
Yeah, that's not mine either. And I think that you'll know if people are working or not, whether you're getting what you want in the deliverables that they're doing. And I think I've seen a lot more in the millennials and the younger generations want that flexibility. They might want to do it at midnight and different times. It's like our students in the online atmosphere. Not everybody wants to sit in a traditional lecture all day long at the certain hours at certain times, or they can't because of their family life or different reasons. And I love the flexibility of working virtually. I've done it even before I worked as an online professor. I was a pharmaceutical rep, and that's basically you're working out of your home as well. So I think it came natural to me to be accountable just because I'd always done that. But I think a lot of people, when they first start, they don't really know what to expect. That's why I love that you wrote a book about this. And I want to know, who's this book for and why did you write it?
There's actually two groups. Initially, I wrote it for my students, for the people who are going through like a bachelor's program and they're just trying to, you have a lot of students who'll get a degree and maybe they're in Georgia, Florida, and they can't find a job after they get their degree. In reality, with the virtual world, you can and not leave your hometown or the area. So there's a lot out there. So I wanted to give them that knowledge and show them. And I just had a meeting with 2,100 a club of 2,100 LinkedIn members to say, there's a lot out there, right? You just have to be able to take back and take a look. Is that for everybody? No. Personal accountability, you have to be a self-starter, but you need to have a supervisor or manager to kind of help you there. But what I really found was a whole new environment of people who liked the book that I hadn't thought about, were people like myself, over 50, who are having to reinvent themselves from the face-to-face corporate world to having to work. How are you going to change over into this new virtual activity, this global? I'm excited. There's just so much going on. I get my idea of a perfect day is teaching an online course from whatever cruise ship I'm on at the time. And so, you learn, you can enjoy life, blend personally, you can have that balance in life that we talk about, because, we can get so absorbed in our jobs that our families suffer and everything else. I think we've all been there. Mm-hmm. But for the people over 50, they kind of feel like they're out there all by themselves. They don't have a way of getting back into the game. And so I'm finding a lot of interest being found and saying, hey, yeah, I can actually do that.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people have to work when they travel, and it used to be a lot more challenging. I remember I wouldn't dare take a course to teach when I had to go somewhere, because you didn't know if the internet would work. You didn't, now they have hotspots and all these other things that makes it so much easier to work virtually. And I've had people on my show who, have written about this, or they have virtual teams and different things. And in fact, when I got my doctoral dissertation, Danny Babb was on my committee, and she wrote a book about, Danny. And she wrote a book about how to be an online professor, and that type of thing. And it was very well received, because I think a lot of people want to know how to do this. They want to know what to expect. I think there's a lot of preconceived ideas of what it is. And I think you'll know right away if this is something that you can do or not. I don't think it's meant for everybody to work virtually. I think some people like the energy of being in an office and that type of thing. For me, even though I'm an extrovert, I love to work by myself. I think I work a lot because I talk too much in an office. I keep everybody distracted. And so it's probably better to keep me off virtual, somewhere. But you also go to an office, or you did, you've had both ways where you worked virtually part of the day and some of your team and not others. How was that, combining the two?
Actually, it helped save my marriage. I have my home office.
Yeah.
I also have an office downtown Denver. And so I'll go in there a couple of days a week because even with the virtual environment, my wife and I, we're coming up on 50 years. Mm-hmm. And she likes to get rid of me. Uh-huh. There's too much of a good thing. And so, but actually, I like going into the office also because even though you still have the same equipment and everything else, I don't know why, it's just a different environment. And I'm able to do different type of things, and it's very productive.
So are you more productive at home then, you think?
It depends on what I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
But then again, I have a brand new 27-inch monitor. I'm adding it to this, and I'll be able to do more games.
I might be able to actually see it.
Well, I'm a techie. Certain technology stores love me, because I think I bought everything in there. But I'm constantly striving to how to use technology to be more productive so I can do more.
Well, technology changes everything, I've heard, and which was our tagline, as you know very well. What technology do you think that leaders have to know to be successful? Do you have to know Zoom? Do you have to know Skype? Do you have to know Word? I mean, what's the must have to be able to work virtually? Because some leaders are used to having somebody do their Word documents for them or something, that maybe, do you have to know a certain baseline of information to work at home?
That's a really good question. And at the end of each chapter of my book, I actually have what I call virtual nuggets, to where
I saw that.
What's out there available. And I'm finding out this becoming a hobby. I'm out there trying to find all these new tools.
Yeah.
That the virtual videos, like we're going here, is a key component.
Yeah.
Because I think that was a missing link of working distance before. And I used to go to Singapore when I was working with LSI and Hitachi, and remember the old videos where everything was like stop motion and everything else.
Well, sometimes
so technology made it to where it becomes more conversational. There's that more personal bonding. I think you have to be careful. There's a lot of free tools out there to do it. You talked about accountability, how to keep on track, how we keep going. Is how to use, Excel spreadsheets, scorecarding. I'm a very big believer in scorecarding, not just so the employee can report what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm a very strong believer in the opposite direction. I want them to know not only what am I doing, but what's our degree program. And so I put a lot of information out there. Because remember, I want them to feel like they're part of something, not just a person at the end of the virtual highway.
Right.
So then you start learning how to use Google Documents so that everybody can be using live information, updating and going through. It's a constant learning exercise, but really some of your basic tools, whether you're talking about Excel or Word, video conferencing, there's a lot of different items, not so much saying that you need to, it's the same tools you use in an office, mm-hmm. but it's how to use the technology to make it easier for going through. Mm-hmm. If you're one of my virtual people and you have a problem, how do I use technology so I get you the skills, the knowledge to help you take care of the problem? That is what's key.
Right, right. Well, I think that, you tied into some of the tools I used a lot. I think Google Docs was really helpful to me managing a team where everybody could access everything from different areas. And then if you ever leave the company, everybody's got all that data and information so that it keeps everybody well connected instead of it's in somebody's office in another town somewhere that you can't access it because they're virtual. I like the sharing of information, and I think that your book is really important for so many people because this is the reality of the workplace now, and we need to know how to lead. And I think that what you're writing about ties into what I'm talking about with curiosity, is that we got to develop, a lot of these questions. How do I do this? Asking, finding out how to do things that we've never done before. And maybe more people would like to work virtually who were just afraid of it. They're afraid of technology. They haven't experienced it, whatever the situation is. So I'm so glad that you wrote this for students and everybody else. I think it's such an important book. What's your key takeaway you want people to get from this?
There was a Maxwell study that showed supervisors, they don't receive any managerial training until their 10th year.
Wow.
And that's really kind of right, because you're busy doing the day-to-day, and corporations, they invest money in managers, mm-hmm. corporate training. Right. And so that first 10 years in their career really has to be relied upon by mentoring by their managers. Right. The problem is managers don't have the time. It's not that they don't care.
Yeah.
You get into it, we spend 90% of your days in meetings, mm-hmm. And it's hard enough to even do your normal job. And so I really got into this book, the more I got into it, and the rest in the series that I'm writing, next one's on accountability, exactly what we're talking. Uh-huh. And so how do you do that on a way of, accountability is a positive reinforcer. It doesn't have to be a negative.
Right.
So how do you motivate? How do you, success? There's I think, I'm trying to remember who it was that said, you get what you want out of life by helping somebody else get what they want to get out.
That was Zig Ziglar, I think, said that.
I believe it was. I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan, and John Maxwell.
Yes.
and so that's the challenge, but that's also the reward that we have as being managers. It's a heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
Not just what the company does, but lives. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun with it. And if I can't accomplish everything I want in this life, I'll have to come back and do it again.
Well, always the optimist. And I love to end on that note, Ron, because you've always inspired me, because I don't think you've ever had a bad day that I've ever seen. You're always in a good mood, and I've always appreciated working with you. And I was so excited to have you on my show. I was so excited to see that you wrote this great book. And I think a lot of people are going to want to know, where can they find it? Is it available on Amazon, or can you find it somewhere else?
It's on Amazon, and Barnes & Noble's starting to pick it up. I've seen some orders starting to come in from them, but Amazon, definitely, you can find it.
And can they reach you on LinkedIn? Do you have a website or anything where you want to share?
You can go to ronaldbeach.com, one word,
Mhm.
and you can find there, and you can find the status. I have a blog that's just getting going. I'm trying to get out of writing geek, tech academic speak. Uh,
Little
but it,
contractions in your words and that type of thing.
that has been a
That'll
hard.
never happen.
Oh, but you can get hold of me there, and so I have my ronaldbeach.com. If you want to know my corporate background there, then just go to ronaldbeach.info.
Well, thank you, Ron. This was so interesting, and I wish you a lot of success with your book because you deserve it. And this is great for anybody who's thinking of working virtually. Check out Dr. Beach's work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.